Guys, I am so excited to have Jenny Lorenzo on, also known as Jenizzle, who is the creator of Abuela and a bunch of different characters on the YouTube and the TikTok. I love Laritza. She's one of my favorites. And also the voice of Lupe on Victor and Valentino, which I know a lot of you guys watch because there's a lot of cross-pollination there. So welcome, Jenny. I'm so happy to have you.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm fairly new to Twitch, so I'm here trying to look at the comments at the same time. And
dude, this is crazy. I remember in New York City, starting to do my sketch comedy, and then I watched. Someone was like, "You need to watch this one," and I saw your first Abuela video, and I was like, "Holy shit, that's really good!" So I started giving that a follow, and I think it was part of Pero Like or one of those.
Yes, one of the many that
yeah. And I remember like reaching out to Better Like at info.com or info at Better Like I was writing to all of the things, sending stuff to Flama, like trying to get stuff. But I remember thinking like, this chick is doing it and she's kicking butt. I had no idea where you were located. But I just like Abuela was in my brain since forever. And then when I moved to LA and a mutual friend was like, "Hey, you need to connect with Jenny." I'm like, I know her work. So that to me was super special because he obviously saw we were doing similar stuff and put us in touch. And it was just so exciting to get to meet you.
Yeah, it's funny because, I told you, but for everyone watching, it was similar for me in that, I love video games, and my husband specifically, all of my friends play Overwatch. And so then when our friend connected us on via email, I immediately told my husband, I'm like, guess who reached out to me? Sombra.
It was just crazy because like you're such a big personality on screen, and then when I met you, you're like tiny. Like I hugged you, and I'm like, you were petite, but you like as Abuela and as these characters, we can't tell. It's just like not fat, just you seem like you're tall. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's also. I feel like you're similar to me though, because I view you también like this petite, but you have like this strong, commanding voice, which is obviously why you have a successful voice acting career. And honestly, I'm glad I was given this voice. I worry that because of my stature, I wouldn't have been taken as seriously as a woman. I hate to say it, but it's just.
Yeah.
And obviously it's tied to personality también, so I just kind of put my foot down, and I'm very, I don't like to let people walk all over me, what I mean?
It's tied to personality también. That brings me to Hyphenated, which I want to talk about because it's so badass. I've listened to a couple episodes. I'm very excited for the next ones. You started a podcast with Joanna Hausman called Hyphenated. Tell me more about it. I'm really excited for the world to hear this, especially hyphenated people like us, because I think everybody's hyphenated nowadays.
I've always loved the term living in the hyphen. So like Cuban hyphen American. For you, it's Colombian hyphen American.
Well, my invented term was Hispanglo-Saxon, because I'm Hispanic and Anglo-Saxon, or whatever. Yeah.
So we just wanted to have a podcast where we can talk about our experiences living in this hyphen, which again, I knew about Joanna because of Flama back in the day. And I was at Pero Like, and then I went on to Me Too. And then the first time I ever met Joanna was at a VidCon. And we had just this mutual love and admiration for one another. And I just think she's brilliant, and she has an excellent sense of humor. And we got along super well, but we've never been able to really work together because she lives in New York. Yeah. So I would only see her every now and then out here if it was some kind of event. Those like YouTube Latino events and stuff like that. So it was just perfect timing. She approached me to do the podcast with her for Pitaya, which is the company that's producing it. Her videos and my videos have had that same theme throughout, which is, again, living in the hyphen. Yeah. A lot of my videos are Spanglish, English, Spanish. One character mainly speaks all Spanish, while the other one is like the nieta, the granddaughter who barely knows Spanish. It's everything in between.
Where did the inception happen? Did you go, Joa, I want to do this with you? Did Pitaya say, you two seem like you'd be awesome at this? Like what was the that first seed? Because you guys are really some podcasts I find like take a while to rev up, and you guys jump in immediately. And from second one, I want to know what's next, and it's really good. And you have this ping pong that works so well.
I'm so glad.
Yes.
I mean, Mira, my whole, since I started this, right, I'm like, should I have a I would have people write me and ask me when I'm going to have a podcast. But the thought of it overwhelmed me because I do have ADHD. So does Joanna. But I was diagnosed last year.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Mine is undiagnosed, but I'm really sure I have ADHD.
I mean, how you might, yeah. Women, it's a problem, especially with women. We tend to get diagnosed much later in life, and it's really unfair. But Joanna was diagnosed when she was a kid, so she kind of has more of a grasp on it, more of a control.
Yeah.
But that's why I didn't want to have a podcast for the longest time. I thought it would be cool, but I cannot sit there and edit myself in audio format. I love video editing. I cannot do audio. It's even difficult for me to listen to other podcasts because of my ADHD. So I'm like, how am I going to do this? This was perfect because she approached me because the people at Pitaya approached her. And they're like, who would your ideal co-host be? She thought about me. Bless her heart.
That's beautiful.
Joanna's always like uplifting other creators, especially other women in the industry.
Absolutely. Awesome.
And we go into multiple, it's not just about weight. We go into like the idolization in Latino culture about whiteness and, you have to have blue eyes. We go into all of that. So
yeah. Wow, that's amazing, man. Because it more and more, we just have to expose these topics so that other people don't feel alone. Because so many people are feeling the same thing, but they don't know that people are feeling it. So it's almost like sharing it so that we know it's a thing, Let's talk about Victor and Valentino. I believe that Diego Molano, who's the creator of that show, just loved your work and reached out and said, yo, I think you'd be great for Lupe. Like, how did that go down? And did you know who he was? Like, were you like flabbergasted that he knew about you and wanted you to do this? It wasn't just like, oh, well, I'm sending another 75,000 audition, which we do. But he really loved your work, and he didn't mind that you weren't Mexican, which that show is very Mexican centric.
Oh yeah. Since I was in my early 20s, I knew that I really wanted to be an animation voice actor specifically. And now, claro, one of my goals is to be in a video game someday, but animation was always my thing.
But you will.
Thank you, Mija. When I moved out here, I started taking voice acting classes. I would always be, when I would go to like the Comic Cons and stuff, I would always go to those panels with all the voice actors that everybody knows and loves, like Rob Paulson, and Tara Strong and all these people. And what's interesting is that, and I'm sure you've been told this, even by teachers and other voice actors in the industry would always say, don't bet on booking animation. It's near impossible. You need to stick to commercial. And I was like, okay, all right. So claro, I did. I started with commercial classes, and then you moved on to animation. And then, so what happened was over like the last, like before I booked Victor Valentino, I had already known about Diego because we have a mutual friend from Miami that went to art school with him. And so he told me about Diego. He's like, yeah, and then Diego and I became friends on Instagram. And I remember having some conversations with him, and he was like, yeah, I love your videos. He would say that his mom Marucci reminds him of his mom.
Oh my God.
But yeah, so we got along super well. But I remember there was a point that I thought there's no way I'm going to ever book a role on his show, because there came a point where he's like, I'm so sorry. Like, I just don't think there's any roles for you because they're all Mexican roles. And I understand that. I was actually appreciative of how authentic he was being. It was a bummer for me because I'm like, oh, this is my chance to finally book something, because I know how hard it is. Yeah. And then one random day, he tells me, I need you to record your voice immediately for Lupe. And he created, not that Lupe is not known in the universe as a Cuban.
But she sounds different.
But the accent, yeah. So he's like, I want her to be kind of like this bully friend who is like a Tony Montana. He vouched for me because, claro, you know how it is. The people up top at Cartoon Network are like, oh, but she has no credits. Like, how about we give it to someone else that has more blah, blah, blah. But no, he convinced them and I got it.
Someone with
And
more
that's what Danny
credits.
eventually
You have created your empire. Your YouTube channel is huge and your Instagram is huge. Like, this is so ridiculous that they want somebody with more
but
credits.
that's how it is. Because
You know what's
again,
confusing though is like now ethnic is the new in, and everyone wants somebody with an ethnic last name, and they're open to any ethnicity for all these roles. So I don't understand how they're not open to this, especially after Oscar's So White and after everything we just dealt with the Black Lives Matter movement this past year. Like, I don't understand how we're not a commodity, a hot commodity these days. That's
I think
bullshit.
it's one thing for
what I'm trying to say.
Oh, we cast a Latina versus, oh, but this is a Latina who does like bilingual foreign content. You know what I mean? Like, they just kind of toss you in this like LatAm category. And it's like, no, I was born in Miami. I'm an American. This is American. Like, this country was built on immigrants. So my writing and my stories and my characters are just as American as anything else. But a lot of these, it's still these big agencies, these you know, people up top, they're still upholding the white supremacy of in the industry. And and even though, again, I'm a white Latina, doesn't matter.
No, it's bullshit. It's like when it behooves them, it works, and when it doesn't, it doesn't. Like, it's just it's when they decide that it needs to be a little ethnic, we'll sprinkle it here, but then when it's too much, then no, you know.
I feel like because I'm a white Latina and I have that privilege, if I was writing stuff that was very mainstream, then they'd be like, oh yeah, look, we got our Latina. But we picked her because it's mainstream shit and not stuff that we don't understand. I'm a white, even though I'm a white Latina, but my content and my stories and all the things that I do are super ethnic. That's already, and that's the same issue that a lot of my Latino friends who are of Asian descent or of, you know, African descent, or they're, you know, Afro Latinos, they also feel like they don't belong. It's like, pick one or the other. Like, are you? You are Latina, but you're Black though. And it's just like,
dude, there are Black Latinos. I have a lot of Asian Latino friends, dude. They're just not actors, but there are so many. Japanese. So many. Sao Paulo has the biggest Japanese population outside of Japan. So many Japanese Brazilians. There are Chinese Venezuelans. There are Korean Chileans. There are you know what I mean? In Colombia, we had a ton of Japanese and Chinese people. Wait, back to Lupe though, because we were talking about this. So he fought for you, which I love Diego for this, because he's like not, and he also fought for Cholo Fit to be a character. What's his name?
Frankie Quiñones.
Frankie Quiñones to be in the show, because he, you know, for his specific character. And that's what I love about Diego. He's like, no, man, these are legit Latinos that are good at what they do. That's why we want to work with them.
Booking.
What does Lupe sound like for the chat?
Lupe pretty much sounds like me. I love animation these days because now not every kid has to sound like a kid. You know what I mean? She's like 14.
But does she have a Cuban accent? Like,
you know what I tell you every day? It's my voice, but it's like a Tony Montana accent.
Get back here, you sinvergüenza.
Get back here, you sinvergüenza.
You sinvergüenza. Is she kind of like Abuela? Kind of like Abuela. Like Abuela for me is just aged. Like, I age her voice more. Yeah.
Tú sabes que
and a little bit weaker. Yeah.
Cuando tú sales afuera sin un suéter. So it's the same kind of like rough Cuban accent, but I age Abuela's voice, whereas Lupe has no rough.
Yeah.
In the new show, though, I'm a recurring on four characters. One of them doesn't really talk, but one of them is just basically Abuela. Like, it's just because you know how it is sometimes, like, you book one role and then the next day they're like, can you do this character, and then you have to come up with a voice on the spot. It's been a really fun journey, honestly. Like, claro, I love acting as myself on camera, pero I think that's such a great and wonderful career path is voice acting.
Where can my followers find you?
That's the problem, right? When you have been on the internet for far too long and are hella old, like, all my handles are mismatched and you can't do anything about it once you get like check marked. But if you type Jenny Lorenzo, you should be able to find me across all social platforms. And then I have my website, jennylorenzo.com.
Guys, definitely please check out Jenny Lorenzo's work on all the socials. I follow her on YouTube and Insta and Twitter and TikTok. Hello. And Hyphenated, the podcast, is also on, I listen to it on iTunes, but I'm sure it's on Spotify as well. You guys are so rad. Thank you for being on. This was inspiring. Latinos gotta stick together and help each other out. Dude, thank you so much for being on, Jenny.
Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun.
Keep booming and bumping, guys. Boop.